What's going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here to talk to you about The Ultimates 2, Volume 1, Gods and Monsters by Mark Millar and Bryan Hitch. This is The Ultimates 2, issues 1 through 6. If you recall, when I was talking about the previous two volumes of The Ultimates from this creative team, something that I felt like was a little bit of an issue was that the first half of this run felt very slow. It was a whole lot of build-up to the fight with the Hulk, which was really the big thing that happened in Volume 1. You had a whole lot of characters standing around talking to each other, kind of building the team dynamic before you actually had anything happening. And then Volume 2 was the exact opposite, where you had a little bit of build-up, and then most of that volume was the team dealing with this secret alien invasion. And it felt like together you could kind of balance it out, and you had about the right amount of action and about the right amount of character stuff in each volume, but each volume by themselves were very unbalanced. And I kind of feel like you get the same thing with this volume and then the final volume. But this one is a little bit more well-balanced than Volume 1 of the previous Ultimates run. It's been a while since I have read Volume 4. I'm going to call it Volume 4, but the Ultimates 2, Volume 2. It's been a while since I've read that, but I seem to recall it was like non-stop action for most of that book. And this one, it's not as slow-paced, or what I would call slow-paced, as Volume 1 of this series, but it does feel like this half of The Ultimates by Millar and Hitch is kind of repeating the same pattern that the previous two volumes did. But this one, I think, dodges the mistake that the first volume did. The first volume, you had the first issue, the entire issue is a big World War II fight scene. And then you have all the middle issues where very little actually happens, and then the finale is the Ultimates versus the Hulk. And so if you are coming to issues 2 through 4 or 2 through 5, I can't remember, expecting superhero action and spectacle, you're going to be a little bit disappointed. With this one, they kind of had a clever, it is much slower pace than the big war that you're going to get in the sequel volume. But with this one, they kind of divide it up a little bit into two smaller stories. So right off the top of the beginning of this volume, it is leaked to the public that Bruce Banner is the Hulk, and he deliberately took the Hulk slash super soldier serum in Volume 1 and resulted in, at one point Nick Fury says, 800 casualties in this book. So they have to put him on trial, and the American public says, we want him dead. There's no excuse for you guys keeping him on salary and, keeping him alive in secret when he killed this many innocent Americans. So the first half of this book is the trial of Bruce Banner. And then the second half is dealing with Thor. There's a 1-year time skip in between the last volume of the Ultimates Part 1 and this volume. In that time, Thor has left the Ultimates. He believes that they are being groomed to invade the Middle East and be used to further a political agenda that he does not agree with. So Thor is no longer part of the team. He wasn't technically part of the team in Volumes 1 and 2, but he was willing to aid them in crisis situations, and he did. But now he won't even do that. It is believed, a lot of the team believes that Thor actually leaked this information about Bruce Banner, but he says, no, I didn't do that. I don't believe in the death penalty, and, I have nothing against Bruce Banner, so why would I do that? And then it is revealed that Thor is actually just a regular guy who stole some technology from this Norse scientist. We are introduced to the European Superhero Initiative. This is where we get Captain Britain and his father, and we saw them much later in the Jonathan Hickman, Carlos Pacheco Ultimate Thor miniseries. That was composed of multiple flashbacks layered on each other, but we get to see them here in universe for the first time. I don't know if this is before, because we saw Ultimate Psylocke in Ultimate X-Men, and I don't know if she appeared there, before we see Brian and his father here, but they make no mention of Betsy here or in later on in the Ultimate Thor miniseries. They don't mention Betsy at all, so she may just be a completely different character, and it's been long enough that maybe she was a completely different character. Maybe she wasn't intended to be Brian's sister like she is in the main 616 universe. But we find out that this guy, he's not actually Thor, he's not a Norse god, and everyone always kind of thought, okay, yeah, he's a little weird. I don't know if I believe in any of that stuff, but he was always saying, like, you know what, it sounds crazy, but I was fighting the Midgard serpent, or stuff like that. And then they're told that he stole this technology that simulates the abilities of Thor, and then he stopped. There were some police who were violently putting an end to a peaceful protest, and Thor comes in and puts a stop to that. And that is basically the straw that breaks the camel's back. Nick Fury says, okay, we have to get this belt and his hammer away from him. And then he is imprisoned, and then we find out in this volume that the scientist who claims that he invented this hammer and this belt, that he is actually Loki. And Thor has been saying, listen, you guys are being manipulated by Loki. He is twisting reality. He's making you guys think that I'm crazy. I'm not. None of them believe him. And then, well, I should say, we find out this guy is Loki, but it's still up in the air. Is this all in Thor's head, or is this actually Loki manipulating reality? And it almost works. This idea that is Thor, is he or isn't he, almost works. But if you recall, in Volume 2, when they were fighting the aliens, there was this bomb that was going to blow up like the entire solar system or something. It was this huge bomb thing, and then Thor was able to teleport the bomb to another dimension. And everyone just kind of was like, wow, that's a thing. And nobody really questioned it. I mean, Black Widow was like, I do not believe in any of this. I don't believe in fairy tales, but nobody really thought of a way to justify, okay, if it's not a weird fairy tale thing, then what is it? Because we are told, okay, the hammer and the belt give Thor, we're told several times that these things make him the most powerful metahuman on the planet. That he can create storms, that he's really strong, but we are not told that he can open a portal to another dimension and teleport a bomb over there and save the entire solar system. That is not put in his character stats or whatever. And so I feel like somebody, and you could justify it and say, well, Loki just erased their memories of that. And so Hawkeye isn't thinking of saying, hang on a second, something doesn't add up. But I feel like a lot of it, like Hawkeye even says, okay, Nick, you knew this whole time. Why didn't you say anything? And they says, well, what could we do? And he was friendly up until now. Now that he's starting to be a threat. And really, I would say this is a weak justification for the team turning against Thor, because later on in Ultimate Armor Wars, Tony stops some people wearing Iron Man suits who are stopping a peaceful protest, and the Ultimates don't go after him. Now, maybe you could say, well, that's like 10 minutes after New York was flooded, so they don't have time to go after him, and that was set during the Ultimate Avengers, whatever. The point is, apparently it's okay for Tony to do this, it's not okay for Thor to do it. And also, they were kind of thinking that he had leaked the information about Banner, so that kind of leads to this also. But Thor is taken off the board, and then also Loki, or the hallucination that Thor thinks might be Loki, tells him, I didn't do it. I did not leak the information about Banner. That was someone else. There's a mole in the Ultimates who's going to betray you guys. And then we do not find out who it is in this volume. I won't say any spoilers now in case you haven't read the other volume, but that is kind of being built up here. And then that's basically it. After the Thor thing, then we get an issue that kind of focuses on Hank Pym. And I really like that issue. In fact, I really like the Trial of the Hulk stuff, and I like the Hank Pym stuff in this volume. Even though Hank Pym, at the end of Volume 1, he beat his wife just brutally. It was very difficult to watch. He nearly killed her. He is not a good guy. But I like that this volume gives him a little bit more than he beat his wife. That is a thing within the main Marvel Universe. Whatever issue of Avengers it was. In the script, she, Janet Van Dyne, or Janet Pym, I don't remember at that point if they were married, she, reaches out, and he just kind of, shrugs her off. that was in the script. And then I believe it was John Buscema who thought, well, at Marvel, we're supposed to make things like epic and dynamic and explosive and action-packed. And so instead of him just shrugging her off, it becomes like a very forceful backhand slap. And that was like a thing that whoever wrote that issue, maybe Roy Thomas, I don't know, probably didn't intend for that. At least that's the legend that I've heard. And then because of that, for the last 50 years, Hank Pym is known exclusively as the guy who beat his wife, even though there was an issue, I think, in John Byrne's Fantastic Four where Reed slaps Sue, and then there's an issue in the 90s where Peter Parker punches Mary Jane, and they get a free pass. But Hank Pym is entirely known as the guy who beat his wife one time. And there's more going on with the character. And I would say there's more going on with the character in the Ultimate Universe. That is not to say that we should excuse what Hank did. What he did was awful. But I like that we get into his head here. I like that we're really getting to see a little bit more about him, and we get to see a little bit more about Banner during the trial of the Hulk. I'll just go ahead and spoil it since I'm talking about this volume. Hank arranges for Banner to not die. They drug him so that he's unconscious. They put him on an aircraft carrier, and then they're going to blow up the aircraft carrier while he's unconscious, and that will kill him. And Hank was the one who, even though he's off the team in the capacity of Giant Man, he is, as of this point, still working for the team, but he's going to be let go shortly afterwards. And so he is the one who builds the whatever chemical that drugged Banner. And then right before they blow up the aircraft carrier, Banner wakes up. And then he calls Hank later and says, "Thank you. You saved me. Thank you." And I kind of like it. Even though Banner, really nobody in this book is great. Everyone here is kind of awful in different ways. Thor is probably the least awful character in this book. But even though Banner is responsible for the death of hundreds of people, even though Hank beat his wife, I like these more vulnerable moments with him where Hank feels bad and saves a guy that he wasn't even really friendly with before he hulked out. I like that. And I'm not counting the Ultimate Origins by Bendis. I don't think that was in the cards at this point at all. But I kind of like that. And I like that Hank, we get to see just how low he has sunk in the last issue. It's equal parts funny and also kind of sad. And again, I am not excusing what Hank did to Jan, but it is... For me, anyway, I feel a little bit bad for him, seeing how low he has sunk in this issue, where he's trying to, he goes to Nick Fury and says, "I've designed these robots. They are even better than Captain America because they will not get tired like a human being." And he says, "I'm giving them to you for free." And Nick Fury says, "No, don't want anything to do with you." And Hank has joined this team of superheroes, the Defenders, and they are pretty much a joke here. And none of them have superpowers. And then they try to fight some crime, and it completely backfires on them, and really you just kind of feel sad for this guy, and I like that. I like that we get some pretty good character stuff here with Hulk and Hank, Banner and Hank, whatever, and not so much with all the other characters. We don't get a whole lot of character growth with Thor. We do get to see that he is struggling with, okay, am I crazy? He's probably kind of doubting himself also, but you feel bad for Thor. Don't get a whole lot of new stuff with Captain America or with Tony Stark. Tony is engaged to Black Widow now. Not so much new stuff with them. You do get some weird, creepy relationship stuff between Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. A lot of people poo-poo Jeff Loeb for revealing that they were sleeping together in Ultimates 3. I never read Ultimates 3, and yes, that is weird and gross to do that, but Millar and Hitch were hinting at it very hard here. At one point, they are on a boat in Venice going down the river, and generally when you see a boat in Venice, that's kind of like, oh, look how romantic. Quicksilver is reading a romantic poem, and then they get a call to come in, And then he's like, I don't want to come in. Or no, she says, I don't want to come in. And he says, well, I think we should. And then she puts her fingers on his lips and says, okay, just for you. And no, it's not revealed in Millar and Hitch's Ultimates that these two are banging each other, but it's hinted pretty hard. If I had no knowledge, if you did the Men in Black thing to me about Ultimates 3, and then I read this, I would say, what's going on here with these two? I would be very suspicious. So yeah, there's that. But really, the character stuff here is mostly with Hank Pym and Bruce Banner. And I like it quite a bit. So I think this might be, of the 3 volumes of this run that I've read so far, this might be my favorite one. And it's been a long time since I've read volume 2, or the final volume, but I will have my thoughts on that sometime soon. But in the meantime, I hope you guys have a great rest of the day, and I will catch you later. Have a good one.